Malik Washington is the most important person for Maryland football.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Maryland football, Malik Washington for Maryland football is the most important player on the Terps. A lot of people are going to have different opinions on this. A lot of people are going to have different thoughts and a different process on things when it comes to who are the most important players for Maryland football. But to me, Malik Washington's the most important player in terms of right now, the future, but everyone knows he's the most important player in terms of the future. I'm talking about this current season. Malik Washington is the most important player. And I'll tell you guys why. Everyone knows that quarterback is, I think, one of the hardest positions in sports. It's a position that it's just really hard to control. It's really hard to play. You have to know in your head plays. You have to understand how your receivers think, how your offensive line is. You have to identify defenses. You have so many different jobs while also having to know everyone else's job. It's the hardest job in sports. I don't know a harder position in sports. Couldn't name one, and I don't think you guys can either. When we talk about football in general, the quarterback's the guy who makes the headlines. The quarterback's the one who everyone 99% of the time is going to talk about. A lot of the talk is going to be towards the quarterback. So I don't think it's crazy to say that Malik Washington's the most important player this upcoming season for Maryland football. Now, it would be different. It would be a different thing if I didn't think he was going to start. But I told you guys, I think Malik Washington is going to be the guy. I think Malik Washington is going to be the starter. I think he's going to end up being one of our best players going into next year. I think there's a lot of hype, or a lot of people, I don't want to say hype, but I think there's a lot of people who thought Justin Martin was going to end up actually starting this year. But as we get closer and closer and closer to the year, I think that's honestly less and less of a thing that people are thinking is going to happen. Don't see it happening anymore. Justin Martin didn't look awesome in the spring game, didn't look great. I thought Malik Washington and Christian Martin looked better than him. There's not been a ton. We don't really know what's going on in camp, but there hasn't been a ton of reports of being like Justin Martin is outperforming Malik. Haven't seen it. Everything I read, everything I looked up has been Malik Washington looks to be the starter, or Malik Washington is a big deal for Maryland. Whatever the case is, it's all about Malik Washington. And Mike Locksley might not reveal it to you, and he might not tell you, and the media might not know exactly what's going on. But there's something to be said for rumblings and for all these articles coming out and everything that's being said that Malik Washington is going to be the starter, I think, is what it comes down to. I put the media aside. I thought just my current opinion based off of what I saw in the spring game, how he comes in. He comes in as like a top 50 recruit, a high 4-star rated guy, the number 5 rated quarterback in the class of 2025. I just think it would be hard not to start him. And so when you talk about a quarterback coming in as a freshman that is probably going to start for you, that was the number 5 rated quarterback in high school, coming out of high school in the 2025 class, you're probably thinking of him as an important player in your offense. He's the most important player in the offense. He's the most important player on the team. Forget the offense. He's the most important player on the team. And he can decide a lot of different ways this year can go. He can decide a lot of different ways this year can go, whether it's Maryland winning some games, Maryland losing some games, the momentum going into next season. Does Maryland make a bowl game? I think it's going to come down to, at the end of the day, how good's Malik Washington? There's other factors. I think that a lot of it's going to come down to, is he ready to play? How good is he? What is he for Maryland football? And if he's good enough, there's going to be a lot of momentum with this Maryland program. Excuse me, I just needed some water. But if he's not good and he doesn't look great his freshman year, I think there is going to be a grace period. A lot of people are going to point fingers at other directions, but that gets a little bit of away from my point. I just think Malik Washington defines how this year goes. If he's really good and plays to how we think he can be, I don't see any reason why Maryland can't win 6 games this year. I don't see why Maryland can't win 6 games this year if Malik Washington is who we think he is. He should have no trouble beating FAU. He should have no trouble beating Northern Illinois. He should have no trouble beating Towson. I think if he's what we think he is. He might have trouble in some of these Big Ten games, and where Vegas has our win mark, they don't think we're going to win too many. What is it, 4.5? So he might have trouble in some of these other games, but I think there's a real possibility there that if Malik Washington lives up to his potential, that we get to a bowl game, and it might not be like the most difficult path. Like I've talked about, we avoid Oregon, we avoid Ohio State, we avoid USC, we avoid Penn State, we avoid a lot of the top dogs. We have a lot of the middle-ish teams in the Big Ten, and if Malik is what we think he is, he can go. What would that be? I guess that would be just he can have a losing record in the Big Ten and still get us to a bowl game. I don't think it's ridiculous to think that you can get 3 Big Ten wins when we don't play any of the top dogs in the Big Ten. And I think that he is going to be the biggest reason why, if we are good, that we're good. It's that simple. I don't think you can't tell me with a straight face we're going to be like, yeah, our defense was top 5 in the Big Ten. That's why this Maryland team is good. I like our defense. I like some of the players. But is it going to be a top-rated defense where it's like that was the most important part? Or our secondary was so good that Malik Washington wasn't that great all year, but our secondary and our safeties and our corners were so good, and maybe our linebacker room was pretty good, and we got some better pass rush, that all of a sudden our defense was the most important factor, not our quarterback, to us winning 3 games. That's not going to happen. I like the talent on the defense. I like some of the players, but I've said it. There's a reason everybody's rating us as a bottom 3 team in the Big Ten. There's a reason for it. It's not made up. I'll tell you that. There's a reason for it. I'm not going to sit here and act oblivious to how this roster is constructed. There's good, solid talent, and there's more depth, especially on the defensive line, but in other areas as well, I really believe. But still, there's not a ton of proven talent and commodities. So I don't think we're going to look at it and be like, oh, the defense is really good. Or you go the other side and be like, the offensive line was really good for Maryland football this year. It hasn't been good under Mike Locksley. When would we ever be like, yeah, the offensive line was the reason we won 3 games this year or won 3 Big Ten games this year? It wasn't because of Malik Washington. It was because of them up front. We're not going to say that. If Maryland's going to be good this year, if we're going to get to a bowl game, if we're going to exceed expectation in terms of, I don't know what Mike Locksley wants. I don't know. In terms of not like the program, in terms of the expectations that I kind of have and how Vegas kind of shapes it, because that's kind of where I like to look at it. How does Vegas put you as a 4.5 win team? If we can get to, I think a bowl game is kind of where we want to be. It's going to be because Malik Washington was our most important player. It's going to be because Malik Washington went 25 of 35, and he made a couple mistakes, but he made a couple big-time throws that kept us in the game, and he passed for 225 yards and rushed for another 40 yards and kept us in the game against Washington and allowed us to win late on a field goal where he marched us down the field after throwing a pick on the drive before. Like, it's going to be something like that. It's not going to be like, oh, the defense played well. I'm not saying he's not going to have to have a good supporting cast to be able to do it, but we know that the most important part of this, and the guy that we can't do this without, and the big reason why I think he's going to start, is because it's going to come down to the talent of Malik Washington. It's a little bit NFL-y. It feels a little bit Joe Burrow-y, where you guys know the Joe Burrow thing, where last year Joe Burrow was in the MVP conversation, and his team couldn't even make the playoffs. Couldn't make the playoffs, and he was in the MVP conversation. I think it's going to be a little bit of that. I think we're going to have a supporting cast. I just think the biggest and most important player we're going to look at is Malik Washington. Now, there is a world where I'm wrong, and that really only way I think that can happen is if Justin Martin's the starter. If Justin Martin ends up being the starter, then you guys can say I was wrong. But if Malik Washington ends up being the starter, he's going to be the most important player on the team. And he still kind of is, I feel like. There's still a case to be made that even if Justin Martin starts, that Malik Washington is going to be breathing down his neck and is still going to get playing time. But I think I made the mistake last year thinking that Mike Locksley brings in a quarterback similar. It's a similar as bringing in MJ Morris last year and me thinking MJ Morris was going to start over Billy Edwards just because we brought him in and you think of him as a good college player that's played. And I thought in my head, I was like, yeah, he's going to start over Billy. Billy hasn't proven anything. That was wrong to think that. Locksley's he's going to play the best player. Like, I really thought last year MJ Morris was going to be the starter. I preached it. I said it. I really believed it. And I was just wrong. MJ Morris wasn't the starter, and MJ Morris didn't look great when he played. Made a couple of nice throws, but didn't look great outside of that when he played. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And I'm not going to I'm just going to say that listen to the media because last year everyone said Billy Edwards is going to be the starter. And I was like, no, I'm going with the wave. And I'm also going with my gut. And I'm kind of believing that just because Locksley brings someone in doesn't mean he has to play. And I know it's a different situation. It's different. It definitely is different. But I don't want to get carried away with thinking that Justin Martin's going to be the guy because I haven't seen anything that says that. I haven't seen anybody say that. I almost forgot. I did want to read this PFF article. I didn't purchase it. You have to buy the rest of it. But it's a preview of Maryland football. It says the biggest strength is a young quarterback with a lot of potential. The crown jewel of Maryland 2025 recruiting class is quarterback Malik Washington, ranked as a number 11 signal caller in the cycle. He's the highest rated recruit in the Terps have landed in 4 years. Washington impressed during the spring game, completing 12 of his 18 passes for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a real chance to start week 1 as a true freshman. A lot of things being said right there by PFF. That's how the article starts. That's how the preview of the Maryland Terps starts. Starts with the most important guy. All those previews usually start with maybe they ended last year, blah, 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 but the most important guy, the quarterback, is blah, blah, blah. That's usually how it goes. So I think it's a fair assessment to say Malik Washington going into next year is the most important player for Maryland football. Let's talk about a little bit about the defensive line for Maryland football. I honestly think that it's going to look a lot different this year. I think there's going to be a lot of different changes. We'll talk about that next and why I think it can be better this year. We'll talk about that next. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drinks minus the alcohol into quick, energizing shots. Whether you're singing birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. What's the wildest shot you've ever made? What is the total fluke or well-calculated miracle? Has anyone in your golf group ever tried to pull off a ridiculous bet, like a crazy wager on your hole or a shot? How did it go down? Golf is about good times with good people and good flavors, of course, and the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best part of your clubhouse to go without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is number 5hourenergy.com, you can use promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your orders. The offer is valid until September 30th on one order. It can be used with another promotion. The code is good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to go through. Order transfusion and flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Let's talk about the D-line. I think it's going to be much better. And I think the biggest reason why it's going to be much better is the rotation. We have guys now that we can rotate in and out. And I feel like the defensive line is that one position group where even if you have a couple of really good guys, it's not good enough. And I don't mean like, and if you have a couple, and like if you have Will Anderson at Bama coming off the edge, like obviously you're gonna have him in every play. Like he's gonna be a really good player. But I'm really in the interior, on the inside part of the defensive line. But I think when you're at a place like Maryland, I think there's just more value, and maybe you don't have an All-American on the defensive line. But if you have 8 or 9 or 10 guys that can all rotate in and out and stop the run for one in the interior and then get some sort of pass rush, I think that plays a much better role than having a couple guys that are really good, but then there's no depth. Because I think last year we can attest, we had 2 good players on our defensive line that got drafted. 7th round, and Jordan Phillips went in the 5th round, I think. I'm pretty sure it's either the 5th or the 4th. Pretty sure it's the 5th round. But my thing about those 2 guys, yeah, they were good. I didn't think our defensive line was good last year. We had 2 NFL draft picks, but I didn't think that group was good last year. And it tells you, and it tells me this, and I kind of feel like I figured it out, and Loxley's kind of seeing a similar vision, that, yeah, you can have a couple of good guys, but that ain't going to be good enough. You need a bunch of players that can rotate in and out, and a bunch of different guys that can play and play at a high level for that line to look good. And I think Maryland has switched to that method instead of having 1 or 2 guys that they feel really good about. And then you're going to see, out of all those players that you rotate in and out, I'm sure a lot of them will just end up being okay. Some of them, or 1 or 2, might end up being really good. And then you actually end up getting some of both worlds, where it's like, we got a couple of really good players, but we also got some rotational pieces and some players that are pretty solid. And so when I look at Maryland's defensive tackle spot this year, the interior, as well as honestly on the edge as well, we just have a lot of different types of players. Don't know who's going to be good. Don't have any idea who's going to start. But I think it's a lot of different player types that actually are going to be really exciting for Maryland football. Like you have a guy like Cam Rice that transferred in that had a really good season last year coming from Ohio. Like he's really interesting. He had a really big season last year. Dylan Fontes is back on the defensive line. Then you brought in this kid, Ian Thomas, a huge body that a lot of people are high on. That could be really good from St. Francis. Then you have a kid from Joel Starlings from UNC that had a lot of big time O's. Cedric Smith, a transfer. Bryce Jenkins, a freshman that you're high on. Dimitri Nicholas, a redshirt freshman. Like there's a lot of bodies in there that can play, and that's just on the interior defensive line. Edge, it's youthful, but still a lot of really good players. D.D. Holmes from Florida State, redshirt freshman. And then you got to think of guys like DJ Samuels on the outside linebacker edge spot. Sidney Stewart, people are high on. Neo Avery, we're waiting to break out. Zahir Mathis was a high-level 4-star. Like, there's a lot of different players that you're like, this guy can be something, where we don't have any idea who's realistically actually going to end up being a good player. But I feel pretty good that Maryland's going to end up actually producing a couple guys that stand out, and it's a youthful unit. So I do think Mike Loxley changed how he went about it. And I was like, we keep adding these defensive linemen, and I honestly liked it at the time. I did, and I still like it now. But I do think I'm starting to understand how we're going to shape it up, because those guys are big. They get tired, but you want big bodies that can go in short spurts and stop the run. Stopping the run is going to be really important. It's hard to find elite pass rushers on the defensive line in that unit. Like that doesn't really happen that much. So I think that for Maryland, I do think that you want guys that can stop the run, rotate, and stay healthy while also staying energized. And I think that'll allow the Terps to play at a high level and allow them to do some really good things. So I definitely see that for Maryland football. Let's talk about the Shrine Bowl. A bunch of Terps players got invited. We'll talk about that next. So I think that Maryland getting more guys, continuing to get guys invited to the Shrine Bowl shows that, one, we have a better roster than we think, as well as the NFL is noticing Maryland. We're starting to put a good amount of people in the NFL. And so it was really interesting to see, especially in the mid rounds. I think Maryland's starting to get a lot of solid, like Dante last year in the mid rounds. Like Dante last year went in the mid rounds. Jordan Phillips, Tommy King-Basote. I mean, like that 4 to 7 range. Ty Felton won the third round, but like still, you're getting a lot of different players going in the mid rounds of the NFL draft. And I think teams are liking that. But it's really interesting that Maryland has a bunch of guys that got invited to the Shrine Bowl for next year, or it's the watch list, I guess. So they're technically not invited, but you continue to see these numbers go up. So Allow Ba, who's one of our offensive linemen, probably going to play guard this year, is going to be invited. I think Ba's really big. Remember, he came from Georgia. We were really excited about him on the offensive line. I think he should make another jump in Big Ten play. Starting another year at Maryland, there should be another jump that happens for a guy like Ba, who we all think is a good player. But if he makes a jump, our offensive line is going to be much better, especially how big he is in the run game. Like, he can really make some gaps for Maryland running back. So he's a guy that got invited on the offensive line that we think is going to be a good player. Jaleel Farouk, receiver, transfer from Oklahoma. We've known he's done some really good things at Oklahoma. His 89 career receptions, 1,287 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Like, he's done a lot in college football. And I'm not surprised at all that he got invited coming off the injury. I think people are kind of questioning what he's going to become, how good he's going to be, different things like that. But I know for sure that Jaleel Farouk, I think, is going to be a really good leader for this team. And then I hope that he's going to end up being a really good player. But Jaleel Farouk has a chance to be one of the better receivers in the Big Ten. That's what he was when he's at Oklahoma. He's a really good receiver. And if he continues to get better, even though he is coming off that injury, I really like where his game can be. And then you also have Dorian Fleming, who might be our best guy next year from Georgia State, the tight end. A lot of people think he's going to be really good, and I think that's totally fair for what he did at Georgia State. He's our highest-rated player on College Football 26 EA, which is interesting. I think he's going to end up being really good. And then Jamar Glasker as well, corner from Wake, coming from Jamar Glasker coming from Wake Forest, also is on the watch list, which I think is also another guy that has a chance to be one of the better guys, a really solid player in the Big Ten as well. So I think Jamar Glasker is another guy that we feel good about. And then Jalen Husky, too. We know a lot about Jalen Husky, him switching from corner to safety last year. So those are the guys invited to the Shrine Bowl. And what it kind of tells me is this team's going to be better. Team's going to be better than I'm thinking. There's a lot of those kind of like good players. I think it's just going to take a second for it to come out and to be clear for the Terps. But I think when it does, it's going to look really good for Maryland football. And when it clicks, it's going to click. So I do think that's going to happen eventually. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I expect Maryland football to do some things, and I'm excited to see it next season for the Terps. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.